What's your life like today? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, you bet. One of the things that I'm concerned about on my book is there's so much darkness in it. And the things that I went through in Vietnam, not only in the 60s, that's not in here, but the things that happened in 97 and 98, that I'm happy to talk about the good times because there's so much in here that 18 years now I've been walking with Jesus. So, when the lady in the bar gave me the hope,
Mm-hmm.
and when I came back to Kansas City, I was on medications from the VA psych ward, and the craving for alcohol was on me continuously for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
constantly thinking about drinking again. And finally, I had one last drunk. That was on June 10th of 2000.
Mm-hmm.
On June 11th, when I woke up, I knew that I was done drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I called the pastor of my childhood, and he got me on my knees on the phone and did the sinner's prayer with me.
Right.
And I told him, I said, I've been Buddhist. I got statues this big sitting around in my house. He said, do you have a Bible? And I said, I have a Gideon Bible on my that I brought back from the hotel. And he said, put it on the dining room table and start reading it. I want you to read it front to back. Find a church. And so today I've got 18 years clean and sober because I haven't drank since then, and born again. You can't get two better packages in one.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and we've been married 17 years, and Lori was in Alcoholics Anonymous. She has 18 years sobriety,
Mm-hmm.
and born again in the same year. Came back to the Lord in the same year. So we started joining a country gospel organization and started sharing our ministry, our testimony with homeless shelters and places like that. And we'd play songs like I Saw the Light, Hank Williams,
Mm-hmm.
and that was our theme song because we were lived in darkness,
Mm-hmm.
drugs and alcohol, and a lot of other darknesses. And now we're living in the light. So we did a lot of ministry that way. And Lori retired in 2014, and we went on the road. And in 2014, Memorial Weekend, I met a man by the name of Dave Reaver. and he, this friend of mine, Randy, had been telling me for a year about this video that he had. He said, Mike, I want you to come over to my house and look at this video. This guy that was a Vietnam vet, he got burned with a phosphorus grenade he was getting ready to throw onto a bank to blow up some brush on the bank. And a sniper shot the grenade and it blew up. He caught on fire and burned him over 50% of his body, and he fell in the river, and he continued to burn when he came up. And I said, come and see the video. And I said, Randy, look, I have my own trauma I'm dealing with. I don't need to come over and watch somebody else's trauma. And then one day, about a year later, he told me, he said, Mike, that guy I've been telling you about, he's in town, and he's at a church not too far from you. Why don't you go see him? So I did. I packed up the car, and Lori and I went and seen Dave Reaver. And I'll tell you what, he changed our ministry, and he impacted our life, permanently impacted our life. He said something when he was speaking. I thought, he's going to talk about the trauma. But no, it wasn't about trauma. It was about God, family, and country in that order. And he said something that I always remember. He says, if you don't have anything worth dying for, maybe you ain't got anything worth living for. And he was looking straight at me. And he says, and if you look at me, he says, I was willing to die for my country. You can see that I almost did because his face was pretty much burned off. He says, you can see I almost did die for my country. I'm still willing to die for my family and for Jesus. What are you willing to die for? And he was looking right at me, I felt like. I said, what am I willing? I mean, we're doing nursing homes and we're doing country gospel music and things like that, but what am I willing to die for, I went and talked to him, and he signed a book for me. And he connected me with a man by the name of Pastor Dan Dang down in Fort Worth, Texas. And Dan says, send me a bio. I said, I can't put it in. Send me an email and tell me about yourself. I said, I can't do that. And he said, well, come on down and go to this conference, a Vietnamese conference. And I went down, I met Pastor Dan. And the first day of the conference, he said, Mike, I want you to get up and give your testimony tomorrow morning when we start the conference. I told him my background, and I used to speak Vietnamese pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, get up and do your testimony tomorrow. And I got up to give my testimony. He said, Mike, do it in Vietnamese. I said, I don't know if I can still say my testimony in Vietnamese. That's been quite a while since I used it. He said, do it in Vietnamese. I gave my testimony in Vietnamese, and it changed our calling. and we began to call on the Vietnamese people,
Mm-hmm.
and we began to work with veterans. I'm now Director of Veterans Affairs for REAP International,
Mm-hmm.
working for Pastor Dan. I've been back to Vietnam 5 times in the last 4 years. And I want to end this program with something that I keep hearing, and that is that God can take the good, the bad, and the ugly of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and He can turn it around and use it for His glory.
Amen.
And
Amen.
with that, I think I'll stop. This book can be found on Amazon. It's a hardback, paperback, audiobook, and Kindle. So check it out. Thank you, and God bless you.